Disney people often point out that they are by far their own worst critics. They are constantly fit-picking.
To all who come to this happy place, welcome. Here age relives fond memories of the past. And here youth may savor the challenge and promise of the future.
We're going to go to AP Radio News. Marty Hall will have an update on traffic. Then we'll be back with the 4 o'clock hour of Hometown Radio. Gary Chambers up next. Let's talk about everything happening down at Disneyland. Used to be the world's happiest place before San Luis Obispo bumped him off. We're Hometown Radio. I'm Dave Congalton. 4:05 on the Central Coast. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to News Talk 920 KVEC. I'm Dave Congalton. It is Tuesday, June 29, 2011. Good to be with you. This hour, it's time for something completely different. Let's talk about everyone's favorite place. It's Disneyland, which means our Disneyland correspondent. That's the title I give you.
I'll take it.
Gary Chambers is back. Hey, Gary, how are you?
I'm doing real well, Dave.
Is there a better title? I don't know.
Well, since San Luis Obispo has trumped Disneyland as the happiest place on earth, I think all the people from L.A. are coming up here.
Put a plug in for your blog.
Oh, the blog is called The Mouse Lounge. You can find it at mouselounge.com, and it's also a podcast easily downloadable from the website, or you can go to the iTunes store and just pop in Mouse Lounge, and it'll come right up.
Marty says we should call you our ambassador.
Now you're
Disneyland
talking.
ambassador.
Disneyland ambassador.
But then we'd have to pay him.
Oh, well, you know. Correspondent then. Sorry, Gary.
And you're not on the Disneyland payroll, but you're in love with the place.
I'm just a fan, really. And there's a lot of us nitwits out there that like to go down to the parks and honor and respect what Walt built 55 years ago. And it's not a way of life, but it's a hobby that keeps me out of trouble.
You were there 3 weeks ago.
Yes.
And you're going to be going back on 4th of July.
Absolutely.
Let's start with that. What happens at Disneyland on 4th of July?
Well, just like every holiday season, Disneyland seems to uncover the wraps off of all of the decorations that they've been keeping in the warehouse. So if you walked into the park today, you'd be inundated with this collage of red, white, and blue, and there's a sense of patriotism that pervades the park, especially on Main Street. And when you listen to the Disneyland Band's noon concert, it's very patriotic themed. And when you get there from the 2nd through the 4th of July, they put on a fireworks show that's just beyond belief. You think that the regional fireworks around here are fairly spectacular, and they are. When you get down to Disneyland, it's all done to an unbelievable score. You've got an energy of tens of thousands of people in the place. And while that may sound a little off-putting, like, oh, my goodness, look at all these crowds.
Exactly. You want to go to Disneyland on a 3-day weekend?
Absolutely.
Really? Okay.
Now, there's some reasons to avoid the parks. And when it's hot and it's 105 degrees in Disneyland, I don't care if it's the happiest place on earth. It's the most miserable place on earth. Sure. Because you've got the bodies of all those people as well as the heat that's down there. But if you catch it on a decent weekend, and we're in summer now, but if you look at the forecast, it's in the 70s, beautiful blue skies. Right. And, yes, you've got a lot of people there, but there's a way to tour the parks so that you don't feel like you're being compressed to death by the crowds.
Tell us, please, Gary Chambers, how do we do that?
Okay. The rule number one, when you're going down to Disneyland, the modus operandi of most people is that they're on vacation. They want to sleep in. Right. Okay, well, that makes sense. If you're going to sleep in, stay at the hotel and swim in the pool. Yeah. Because arriving at Disneyland at 11 o'clock or 11:30 is ridiculous. Yeah. Even the most seasoned Disneyland patron can get to the park in the middle of the afternoon and have a good time, but there's a way to maximize your time so that you're not spending it standing in line, and that is to get your butts up out of bed and arrive at the gates 45 minutes before rope drop.
Which is, what, 8 now? Is it 8 or 9?
Right now it's 8 o'clock, and if you are staying on property and have early entry privileges on 3 days a week, then you can actually be in the parks at 7 in the morning, that's too early even for me. Yeah. But the key to enjoying the park is to enjoy what I call those magic 2 hours. When you're there, say at 7:15, even 7:30 at the gates, and there's some even tricks to managing that. For example, if you arrive at about 7 o'clock on property, there is a huge parking structure that they try to lead you into. Right. You can avoid that. And by the time you get to the end of the day, if you happen to be parked farthest away from the escalators, it's a 10-minute slog just to get back to your car at midnight or whatever time it is you finally end up there. But if you go towards downtown Disney, as if you were going to go dining rather than go to the parks, and hang a right instead of a left into the downtown Disney parking lot, you're parked on ground level. But the trick is to get there early. Yeah. Take the tram, get to the gate, get through security. Find a gate that has a tree in front of it. What? A tree? Simple as this. When they have a turnstile there, if there's a tree and 2 turnstiles, 2 lines become 1. So it's actually feeding into 2 turnstiles instead of just the 1 because the tree actually breaks the line up.
This guy's good.
I guess.
This guy's good.
Okay, and it's gate number 13. Just remember lucky number 13 and you'll get in. So that 1 line goes faster than everywhere else. Yeah, it takes a real geek to learn these things. But once you're actually inside, they will let people in to the end of Main Street to what is called the hub. This is the actual center, the geographic center of the park that feeds into the 4 cardinal points, north, south, east, and west. And they have literally a rope there, and they have a brief ceremony that takes place to rope drop. And right at 8 o'clock, that's when the rope drops, and that's when you want to make a beeline. You don't have to run. In fact, they encourage you to walk briskly. But go to your favorite area of the park where you hit the attractions that you want to hit that in the middle of the day are just completely congested. Those are the attractions that are most popular or new. We can talk about that. But those are also the attractions where people will stand in line for 2.5 and 3 hours in the hot of the sun. For what? There's no fun in that.
This is exactly what we have done when we have gone down, Marty, is that we get there early, we hit Haunted House, Pirates, Splash Mountain. We get them all fast because by about 10 o'clock, that's when the lines start. You're absolutely right. You get there early, you get like 2 hours.
Yes, and it's a magical 2 hours because there's very few people there. Once you are on the property, you will see a lot of people. But once you're actually in, then the rope has dropped. Because of the size of the park, everyone disperses into all directions very quickly, and it really absorbs everyone.
But don't they have this new pass thing now where you can sign up for a specific time, Gary?
It's actually been around now for 12 years. It's called Fast Pass. Okay. When you're there first thing in the morning, the thing to do is to have an idea of what you want to do. Like you said, you hit Pirates, you hit Haunted Mansion. Yeah. Those are attractions that are referred to as people eaters. Why? Because they're either Omnimover, which is the Doom buggies that you ride in for the Haunted Mansion, or you're in a boat. They're continuously loading all the time. They never stop. Right. So first thing in the morning is you want to hit the attractions that load very slowly. They're either cycle rides like Dumbo, where it'll go for 45 seconds, stop, reload, go for 45 seconds, stop, reload, or the slower loading attractions like the most popular, Peter Pan. That's my first stop. Every time, Peter Pan. Because it's going to be an hour wait in the middle of the summer any other time of day.
I don't think I've ever done Peter Pan.
Oh, that's a classic, Dave.
Have I done that? I don't remember.
It's awesome.
It is awesome, isn't it, Marty?
It is.
I love that attraction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've done it.
But you have to be there at rope drop, and you have to go straight through the Fantasyland Castle to Peter Pan on the right-hand side. Yep. Otherwise, you're stuck waiting. And if you can get on that attraction in 5 minutes, you're ahead of everyone else throughout the rest of the day. So what I call it the Dark Ride Suite, S-U-I-T-E, you get to Peter Pan and then stay in Fantasyland during that first half an hour, 45 minutes, because those are all slow loading lines. And you can do Dumbo, you can do the Storybook Land Canal Boats, which is also a slow loader. You can do Casey Jr.'s Train, which is only in Disneyland. You can't do that anywhere else. Plus all the dark rides like Mr. Toad, Pinocchio, Snow White.
Are any of the rides there still from opening day?
Yeah, several of them. Mr. Toad, for example, very similar to what it looked like when it opened on opening day. Peter Pan, same thing. There are some attractions like the Carousel and Dumbo that have been revamped and increased capacity, but they are, for all intents and purposes, the same attraction from 55 years ago.
Gary Chambers from the Mouse Lounge back on the Dave Congalton Show. And how do people find the Mouse Lounge, Gary?
Go to mouselounge.com. You can have access to all of the podcasts streaming from the podcast page, or you can go to iTunes, to the iTunes store, and just type in Mouse Lounge, one word or two words, and it'll go to the iTunes store where all my podcasts live.
All right, we'll come back and chat some more with Gary. Your phone call still to come. This is News Talk 920 KVEC, where my screen just went blank. Do we know why this happens?
Jiggle a mouse. Speaking of mouse.
News Talk 920 KVEC.
Dave Congalton Show brought to you by Toma Electric. Important projects come in all sizes. For your project needs, visit them online at tomaelectric.com or call 543-3850.
4:19 on News Talk 920 KVEC. Welcome back. I'm Dave Congalton. What are we talking about this hour? We're talking about Disneyland. Glad to have that conversation with our Disneyland ambassador, Gary Chambers. He goes there all the time. How many times a year do you think you're down there?
I'm usually down once or twice a month.
It's the Mouse Lounge is his blog devoted to everything you need to know about Disneyland. If you want in on this conversation, phone numbers are 543-8830 or 1-800-549-5832. What's new at Disneyland?
Oh, what's not new at Disneyland? Right now is a really good time to enjoy the parks. This is vacation season for pretty much everyone that has kids. And they have introduced new attractions this year. Next year is going to be a huge banner year, as well as they open up an entire new land in Disney California Adventure called Cars Land. They're actually developing the property now with the new attractions that are going into that land. They're also completely redesigning the entrance to Disney California Adventure. So there are areas that are under construction, but still completely accessible to guests. When you walk into Disney California Adventure next year, instead of it being themed to California in its current form, it's actually going to be themed to 1923, the year that Walt came to Hollywood. So you'll actually have replicas of the red car that will travel through the Hollywood backlot. You'll have a replica of the Carthay Circle Theater where Snow White premiered. It's going to be absolutely beautiful.
All right, Juliana's in Los Osos on KVEC. Hi, Juliana.
Hi, gentlemen.
Hi.
This brings up a funny story and something you might be. What's your guest's name?
This is Gary.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, Juliana.
This might be a funny story real quickly, and this might be something interesting for you.
Okay.
We were born and raised in Southern California, so we went to Disneyland so much it got boring. So when we got older, to make it more fun, we would, like to do different things at Disneyland. So one time we got on the Autopia, and we all got in different cars, and then we left one of the cars and jumped into another car.
Chinese fire drill on Autopia. That's great.
It was funny, but for us, but it wasn't for the next person because our car was in the way, and it was empty. Now the one thing that's interesting, my dad oversees the construction of large yachts, and so he has been hired by Disneyland, especially for Splash Mountain, to make the water displace in a certain spot. So in Japan, they don't like getting wet, so when the boats come down Splash Mountain, the water displaces to the sides. Wow. And in the United States, we like getting wet, so the water displaces to the front to splash the people.
Yeah.
Well, he went on about 5 years ago. Disney needed to drain the lake that the boat goes on.
The Rivers of America.
Yeah.
Yes. And so he went in there and he was doing some work for them, and he came back to us and he said, "Do not ever ride on Space Mountain." And we all wondered why, and he said, "Well, because the mouse doesn't like to spend money in repairs. So what they do is they hire somebody and they say, okay, this, and this needs replaced. And the mouse comes back and he goes, okay, what's the one thing that needs to be replaced first? And so they said this. So he replaces this, but then this and this doesn't get replaced.
Yeah, but that's my favorite
So the next time, the second thing needs to be replaced. By the third time, the first thing that needed to be replaced needs to be replaced again.
Yeah.
So he said that it's you never hear about accidents because the mouse pays people off, but it's pretty interesting finding out the the actual structures aren't that reliable. But I love Disneyland.
There is a
all right,
Juliana. There's a great book that's available, and in fact, it has a sequel as well. It's written by a gentleman by the name of David Koenig, Koenig, and the book is called Mouse Tales, and it's really a nice, in-depth look at the behind-the-scenes of Disneyland from its inception and how the land was purchased and the park was put together. And it was written in 1994 and updated in 2005. But if you really want to get some nitty-gritty behind-the-scenes and cast member stories, Mouse Tales is a real good start.
All right, Juliana, thank you. Julie's in Morro Bay on KVEC. Hi, Julie.
Hi.
Hi.
I wanted to just tell you how my son and I we just went last week.
Okay.
And I agree with your guest in that you need to get there before it opens and just stand there in line, visit with your family, and then get to the ropes. And my son and I just went straight over to the new Star Tours attraction, walked right in and didn't even get in line. And then as soon as we got off, we went and got a fast pass for it so that we could go back later in the afternoon and do it again. Because now you've got the ride changes every time. It's not just going to one place. It's so fun and it's so vivid and clear and it's so much better. So then after we get our fast pass, we race over to Space Mountain and do that a couple times. And, we've got it down so we never stand in lines more than about 10 or 15 minutes.
What's on Star Tours? I don't know. What ride is that?
Star Tours is like the flight simulator where you're in a Star Wars scenario and you're taking off and you're going through space and you go through warp speed and you're feeling it, and it'll make you nauseous if you're prone to it.
Yeah.
But now you see Darth Vader in it. You go to Endor and all these different planets, where before it was always the same scene. So
the way they've designed this.
So the guy said there's a potential of 50 different experiences you can have because you may go to 2 planets one time and then 2 planets another time. It's so much fun.
The Imagineers have really instituted a new way of designing attractions so that they are either more interactive or they are different every time you go on the attraction so that it has a much higher rewritability factor.
Yeah.
So it keeps people coming into the gate. Whereas Star Tours was a gate buster in 1986 when it originally opened, they had to do something different when they redesigned it with a new storyline in order to keep people coming back because our expectations are so much higher today than they were, say, 25 years ago.
Yeah, and it's nice because now Space Mountain's not quite so crowded, so you don't have to stay in quite so long of a line for that one. But we go right over to Tomorrowland, do all that stuff, and, we kind of laugh at the people that stand in line for, it was the longest I think we saw it was 80-minute wait for that, couple-minute ride. There was no way I would stand in a line for 80 minutes. So you got to get that morning thing and get your fast passes. And then in the middle of the day, we go back to the hotel and swim. We don't even, between probably 12 and 2:33, we don't even go in the park. We go lounge around, and then we come back at night. Yeah. And it's so much fun. We have a blast.
Sounds like she's got this down, Gary.
She's got it down really well. And the idea behind taking a mid-afternoon break is really important in the summer, especially when you've got kids, because they hit the wall, and adults hit it too. They just tend to work themselves through it. Yeah. And once you've gone past that wall, nothing's fun.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. And I always tell people don't try to do it in one day. You got to at least go 2 days, if not 3. We usually go for 3 days. So that if we miss things, we're not in a rush.
And where do you stay, Julie?
We usually stay at the Camelot, which is across the street from the entrance. This year we couldn't get in. We stayed at the Ramada. I liked the Camelot better. One year we splurged and we stayed at a Disneyland hotel, which is fun because you can get in early. And you kind of don't want to go back once you stay in a Disneyland hotel, but it's, it's 3 times more expensive.
I've stayed at the Camelot Hotel. Julie, thanks for the call. Where do you stay, Gary?
I actually use, and this is a great topic of conversation, Priceline. And in the Disneyland area, you can use Priceline to get a specific geographic region, and I usually book just south of Disneyland in Garden Grove. And you specify a specific star, I'm giving away my secrets, a specific star level on Priceline to ensure that you're at a specified quality. And instead of going onto Expedia or one of the other major travel sites where they present the price to you, you actually bid for the room at the price you want. Well, if you go to a website like betterbidding.com and you can get the going rate of what people have successfully managed to get a room with their bid, and you match that bid for same or similar dates, you get the star level you want, so the quality of the hotel that you want to stay in at the price you want. And the cool thing about that is that I've got it down to a science where I usually get booked into one of 2 hotels, the DoubleTree or the Crowne Plaza, and both of them are great hotels.
Betterbidding.com.
Better Bidding.
I've never heard of this. What about Julie's point that she usually spends 3 days going to Disneyland?
If you've got 3 days, that's the way to do it, because it's not possible to get everything done in one. Gratefully, we live only 4 hours away, so it's easier to get down there than most people who are flying in. But if you've got 2 days, you can do a lot. If you've got 3 days, you can do a lot and not pack it in so well.
And her idea of going in the morning and then going back to the hotel for a couple hours in early afternoon and then going back towards the end of the day and staying into the night.
That's usually what I do, because the parks are open until midnight during the summer. So if you're going to spend the entire day there, you're going to hit the wall sometime in the afternoon, especially when it gets hot. Better to just retreat, take a nap, take a swim, come back at around 5:30.
And what's an adult admission into Disneyland these days? Just your basic one-day pass.
A one-day park hopper pass is $105.
And just to get in just to go to Disneyland?
$80.
Gary Chambers from the Mouse Lounge in the Dave Lounge. Here's California Headline News. Check traffic with Marty. We'll be back with more of your phone calls as we talk about Disneyland right here on News Talk 920 KVEC. 4:34 on the Central Coast. Good afternoon. I'm Dave Congalton. Good to be with you. Let's check in with Marty Hall. She is in the McCarthy Wholesale Traffic Center, where she has the very latest in time-saver traffic and weather together. Marty.
Thank you, Dave. One incident to report on down in Oceano, Oso Flaco, Lake Road at Highway 1. 2 vehicles involved. CHP on the scene. Tow truck is on the way. No other incidents to report on a very nice clear skies here in San Luis Obispo, 69 degrees. Partly cloudy tonight, though, around parts of the county with a 20% chance of showers later on tonight into the early morning hours. Morning fog and clouds lifting. Temperatures out along the coastline, low to mid-60s, 70s across the rest of the county. Before you trade in or sell your vehicle, see why you get more for your car at McCarthy Wholesale. You're listening to News Talk 920 KVEC.
Marty, thank you. On Thursday, we'll give you a preview of some upcoming 4th of July celebrations around town. Also, Dave and Maggie Cox are going to join us to draw comparisons between San Luis Obispo and Boulder, Colorado. Also making his first appearance on the show from Seattle, Andrew Shore is going to join us. He is the founder of an organization, a website called Patient Power, how you can use the Internet to become a better medical advocate. It is the Dave Congalton Show, always your hometown radio talk show. John Scholes, Dave Mullinex will be here during the 5 o'clock hour today. Michelle Doster joins us during the 6 o'clock hour. We're back this hour with our Disneyland ambassador, Gary Chambers is his name. He runs the blog called The Mouse Lounge. People find it how, Gary?
Go to mouselounge.com, or you can find the podcast on iTunes. Just go to the iTunes store, put in Mouse Lounge, 1 or 2 words, and you'll pull up the podcast, which you can subscribe to for free. Very entertaining.
Everything you need to know about Disneyland. We're welcoming your phone calls for Gary, 543-8830 or 1-800-549-5832. Have you been down to Disneyland lately? What was the experience like? Do you have questions for Gary? We welcome your phone calls. Other tips we should share with people about touring Disneyland and getting through the experience?
Really, the two most critical aspects are getting there early, which is always going to be number one on my list. As soon as someone asks me, Gary, how do you avoid the lines? Number one, get there very early. Yeah. And don't press yourself too hard, because the parks are open so late during summer, closing at midnight. If you did take a mid-afternoon break for 2, maybe even 3 hours, come back, have some supper at 5 o'clock, and then go into the parks. You've still got 6-7 hours of the park to enjoy. And the two best times for me in the parks is first thing in the morning, that beautiful morning light, and then at night when all the lights come on, the popcorn lights on Main Street, all the trees are lit. It's absolutely beautiful. The other tip that I would have for those that particularly like enjoying the parks, but the food isn't exactly their speed, there is really good foods to be had outside the park, but still on property in downtown Disney.
Bill's in Morro Bay on KVEC. Hi, Bill.
Hi, how you doing?
We're good, Bill. How are you?
I'm good.
What's
I'm
up?
going down to Disneyland in September. I'm going to do the Disneyland half marathon. That should be a interesting run through the park.
Congratulations. That's a great time.
It's supposed to do the California theme park also, I heard. You go through all the way around it.
That's what I understand. Not much of a runner myself. My marathons are usually getting through from 8 o'clock in the morning till midnight.
Yeah, we got 2 hours to get through the park, and that's 2.5 hours. But it'll be fun. I thought I'd share that with people.
Yeah, it's actually something that they do on both coasts. They do a Goofy run back east as well as a Princess run and a couple of other marathons. And then the run that they do here, it's wildly popular. And, in fact, there are blogs that are devoted to just doing the Disney runs. It's a culture in and of itself.
Have you done it before,
Really?
Bill?
No, I've done half marathons, but never. This is a kind of expensive one because you figure you got to pay to do it. That's $120. Gas, hotels, food. It's going to be an adventure.
What made you want to do it?
I have a running group, and they all said, let's go do it. So, okay.
You're going to have a great time. The people that I know that are avid runners, they absolutely look forward to it every single year. I think you'll have a good time.
All right, cool.
All right, Bill, thanks for the call.
See ya.
543-8830, 1-800-549-5832. Inviting your phone calls about Disneyland. Have you been lately? What was your experience like? Now $80. You're about to tell us about the places to eat.
Oh, yes. The food inside the parks themselves has gotten a whole lot better over the years. We went through an era where it was burgers and fries or die. Yeah. And it's gotten to the point now where we've got a new sensibility in our culture where we want to eat healthier. And it's not as though they've just added apples in lieu of French fries to the burgers that are available. They've actually upped the quality of the food in the restaurants themselves. But for those that want to indulge back to their 1955 passion, I tell you, the first thing that I have ever done in the park that I'd never done before was just my last trip, and that was having a corn dog on Main Street. It was so good. This stuff. Oh, man. You know, usually with corn dogs, the first thing you want to do is douse it with mustard. This was so tasty, hand-dipped corn dog. I know I'm waxing nostalgic over a corn dog, but if you want to do the dining up scale a little bit, you can do so getting out of the parks and into downtown Disney, or even better, in the hotel, the Grand Californian. They have a restaurant there called the Napa Rose. This is a very much respected restaurant with an unbelievably tasty menu. When we go, we just tell the wait staff and the chef, bring us food and just let them start cooking for us. And it becomes a 4.5 hour event. And that's the way you can do it if you so choose.
Do you have any sense, Gary, of attendance for Disneyland? How are they holding with the economy? More people going? People holding back because of the price?
The attendance started to show strain about 3 years ago, as we were starting to emerge from the recession, and Disneyland fought that by being aggressive with their annual passes and really aggressively pricing those. And the attendance remained fairly level. As the economy has slowly recovered, they have tapered off their discounts, particularly back east, but they have them here as well. And attendance seems to be holding steady, if not growing, because what they're doing right is they are investing in the parks rather than just maintaining the status quo.
Betty's in Aurora Grande on KVEC. Hi, Betty.
Hi.
Hi.
I had a question. It's been over 10 years ago, we went to Disneyland and stayed at the Disneyland Hotel, and it was a rainy day, and we were from the San Gabriel Valley and just wanted to re-experience Disneyland, just my husband and I. Our kids were grown, and we really wanted to have a wonderful time, and it was just not a wonderful time. Everyone was grumpy and not happy, not the happiest place on earth. And when we got home, my husband wrote a letter, and we were really disappointed. I mean, we sucked all the fun we could out of it just for ourselves, but he wrote a letter to Disneyland, and they actually sent us back a letter that said that they were sorry we had a bad experience, and please come back and visit the park on them anytime we wanted to.
Wow.
Do you think they would really honor that letter if we just walked up to the gate and handed them the letter? Do you think they would honor that in your experience with Disneyland?
Absolutely. And in fact, what you can do before you go to the turnstiles is go to guest relations, that is in the Esplanade on the same side as Disneyland, and present to them the letter, and they will make sure that you are taken care of. If there's anything that Disneyland does, it's make sure that if their guests have an unpleasant experience, they will bend over backwards within reason to make sure that you are taken care of.
So where would you recommend we go? To the Esplanade?
What you said? When you get past security, that whole area in between the two parks is referred to as the Esplanade. If you migrate to the left, once you get past security, if you're coming from the parking structure, there is guest relations. Stop there first, present to them the letter. They'll escalate it very quickly to management, who will make sure that you're taken care of, because they'll see that that's on legitimate Disneyland stock and it's signed by someone who's up in the ranks of management, and they'll take care of you.
Oh, thank you so much, because we want to go back, but we just thought, we just feel like, what if we go down there and we get the runaround, and we live up here now, and we just didn't know how to go about it.
I don't think they're going to do that either. I think that they will take very good care of you. And point of fact, since they focused a lot of time and energy revamping the park for the 2005 50th anniversary, they have, and I've got to give credit to Bob Iger, Disney's CEO, for this, they've maintained the quality of the parks to that level of 2005, where they spruced everything up for a special occasion. The place is immaculate. They take impeccable care of it.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, Betty, go and have a good time. 543-8830, 1-800-549-5832. For Gary Chambers, our ambassador to or from Disneyland. Take your choice. Mouse Lounge is his blog. Alan's in San Luis on KVEC.
Good afternoon. I only wish this had been out a few weeks ago, because I just went to Disneyland, and good experience, although I would have loved to know the best places, the cheapest places to eat.
Where did you eat, Alan?
Okay, several. The best one I had was let's see if I get this right, the Big Thunder Ranch. It's the all-you-can-eat barbecue.
Yes, it's way expensive, but it's really good.
Yeah, it's $25, which does not include...
$25?
Yes.
Holy cow.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. The things so typically there are high-priced, and a lot of the portions are, to me, too small. One that I did like was in California Adventure. No, I can't remember the name. But it had Mexican, for example, they had a fajita salad, which was big, and it was $11-something. So it was a full meal.
That's right. That's on the Pacific Wharf. There's a Mexican restaurant in there, and there's also a margarita bar.
Well. I don't know if the margaritas would have worked with some of the rides we went on. California Soaring, definitely. Everybody says how good that ride, Soaring over California, is worth doing. I enjoyed a lot of the rides. I really enjoyed It's Tough Being a Bug. It's one of those they call it 4D experiences, very clever. But it seems like all the roller coasters now are jerky kind of things. I don't know if it's just because I'm getting older, or that's the way they're building them these days. But I did like California Screamin'.
For a newer coaster, it's actually fairly smooth. But I'm with you. I reached a point in my life where my body told me, do not put your butt up over your head.
Yeah, that's probably good advice. One thing that worked out, because we got it through Southern California deal, was the 3-day. We did the 3-day pass. It was not the park hopper, but so we went Disneyland Friday, Adventure Saturday, and Disneyland Sunday, so we could take our time going ride to ride, using the Fast Pass whenever we needed to, and the longest I had to wait was 20 minutes.
That's the great way to do it, because DCA is not the richest of experiences compared to the original Disneyland. To spend 1 day in DCA and the 2 days in Disneyland was a really good way to do it if you're going to do the 1 day per park pass.
And DCA is California Adventure.
Disney California Adventure.
Right. I figured that one out. I didn't get to downtown Disney, but some friends of mine did and found some interesting stuff. But again, as I said, I wish you'd been on radio a few weeks earlier, and I would have bothered you for where's the cheapest place to eat.
Actually, I have a tip for that for those that are planning on going this summer. There is a place off property in the Grand Californian Hotel, and that sounds like it may be counterintuitive. It's called Whitewater Snacks. And Whitewater Snacks actually has a really decent menu, really good chicken nachos, very, very tasty chicken sandwich that's made fresh. It's not something that's just held in a bin for you. And you can eat al fresco with Disney California Adventure just on the other side of a fence. So you can actually watch the crowds mill about. You can actually hear a music group called the Minor 49ers if you time it right. Very nice and relaxing. You're out of the park, but not completely out of the experience.
Our timing was good. It wasn't too hot, and Adventure was not that busy. I mean, there were plenty of people, but it didn't feel as crowded. Neither park felt too packed, which I was happy. We stayed at the Tropicana across the street, which is really nice because it is walking distance. But a piece of advice for people getting hotel reservations, let's see if I get it right, Anaheim something, ART, Anaheim something Transit, I forgot the name, is they have a nice bus service, and there are a number of hotels on those lines. And for $4 a day you can travel unlimited, and you can get a lot cheaper hotels if you go a little further from the park.
Good advice there, Gary.
Very good advice.
Alan, thank you. Let's hear from Terry in Arroyo Grande on KVEC. Hi, Terry.
Hi.
Hi.
Fast comment. We always try budget at Disneyland, and we absolutely love it. But we also appreciate the fact that there are lockers. So we bring a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch, some chips or something, and that way we can sample the fun stuff like always getting the tiki room fun drinks and going out for the towards mid-afternoon, picking up a turkey leg from one of the stands near Main Street circular area there, by the castle, I guess it is. And then we've been really impressed with across from Blue Bayou, they changed the menu at the little restaurant there, and we were searching the menu desperately to find something for a gluten-free diet, wheat-free diet. And the gal, the waitress, was sweet. She comes over, she goes, is there something you need? And we told her, and she goes, oh, we've got pasta. And we just totally flipped out. My daughter was so thrilled. They really did a great job with the meal, and it was inexpensive, and we saved our, eating money for that specific, dinner, and then kind of did budget snackies for the rest of the day. So it was great.
That's a very smart way to do it. In fact, one of the great tips that I have for folks that are on a budget is bring a cooler that has some means of keeping either sandwiches or other perishable items cool, and get yourself a locker. It's $6 to $8 depending on the size that you get, but you have a place on Main Street to stow your items like your jackets, which you may need at night, and it's also a place you can come back to every few hours to pick up some snacks. Also, don't be shy of carrying a fanny pack around, especially if you've got kids, so that they have something that they can draw upon, a food resource throughout the day, so that your kids aren't sugar crashing. It's just as important to take care of them throughout the day as it is yourself.
What else, Terry?
That's about it. After you eat the turkey leg, you're going to feel a little tired. So we go for the espresso carts, and the gals are really good about informing us that whipped cream at Disneyland has no fat. It's just wonderful.
That's right. That was something that Walt arranged, that Disneyland in particular has no calories, no fat, and no cholesterol in any of the food.
Terry, thank you very much. I'm surprised they allow you to bring food into the park.
It's not something that they will turn you away at the gate, but you don't want to make a spectacle. They actually have signs that say, you're welcome to bring food onto property, but please enjoy it at the picnic tables outside of the parks. But if you have a backpack with you or a stroller that has food in it, they're not going to turn it away.
Gary Chambers on the Dave Congalton Show. He's our ambassador to Disneyland. He is also responsible for the blog called The Mouse Lounge, 543-8830, 1-800-549-5832 if you want in this conversation. Jim is in Creston on KVEC. Hi, Jim.
Hi, Dave.
Hey,
How are
Jim.
you, sir, and guest?
How are you, Jim? I went to Disneyland with Jim.
Oh, very good.
You know, and we're going at the end of the month, and my favorite place to eat is at downtown Disney. It's called Brennan's.
Ah, Jazz Kitchen. Absolutely.
Jazz Kitchen. And the Bananas Foster for dessert is to die for.
It is phenomenal.
Real,
I wasn't aware Jim was allowed to have dessert.
Well, you know, after cancer, you can have whatever you want to eat.
Yeah, more power to you.
All right, buddy.
What's your favorite ride?
The favorite ride?
Yeah, what's your favorite ride at Disneyland?
It is probably the jungle
cruise?
Cruise, and then the tiki lounge, or the tiki hut, or whatever it is.
The tiki room. You bet.
Sounds good to me. All right, Jim, thanks for the call.
Great story, Jim. Thank you.
Do they still have the Jungle Cruise?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
I thought they had revamped that or something.
They did, but that was back in '94. They had to reroute it somewhat because they put in the Indiana Jones adventure. So the Indiana Jones adventure actually took up some of the Jungle Cruise property. But in actuality, they tightened up the story and they made the jokes even more corny. So it's actually a really good time.
That's the thing I remember about that ride is that the jokes are so bad you want to throw the guide in the water.
Yeah, but that's part of the attraction of the attraction. Ladies and gentlemen, here it is, the backside of water. How can you resist that? Really?
Gary Chambers having way too much fun.
The Congalton Show brought to you by Pacific Eye Surgeons, dedicated physicians caring for your eyes. They use all laser LASIK.
You're listening to the Dave Congalton Show on News Talk 920 KVEC. If you want in on this conversation about Disneyland, we need to hear from you absolutely now, please. 543-8830 or 1-800-549-5832. Gary Chambers from the Mouse Lounge back on this broadcast, longtime aficionado of Disneyland. He's heading back for the 4th of July. Are you going to be there the whole 3-day weekend?
No, I'll probably just be there 2 of the 3 days. I tend to burn out after a couple of days because I know what to do and how to do it. And while there's a lot of rewritability, I know I'll be back again the next month, so I don't need to cram it all in 3 days.
I'll catch you next time.
There you go.
Now, is it worth going, I guess, to DCA? You keep talking about I've never been to that park.
DCA, when it first opened, was not the greatest park, which is, by being able to say that, I can say I am not an employee of the Walt Disney Company because I was very critical of that park when it opened. It was a half-hearted attempt at doing something that honored California, and they had a lot of potential, which now with John Lasseter as the creative force behind the revamping of the parks, it's finally going to be done right. And the changes that they started a couple of years ago and coming to fruition in 2012 and 2013 will really make it a genuine full-day park. Is it worth going today? Absolutely. If just for the World of Color, which is their nighttime spectacular in DCA. World of Color was the name of one of the original series that Walt actually hosted. People would remember the theme song instantly, and no, I won't sing it for you, Dave. But World of Color is putting it mildly, a water, light, and fireworks show, spectacular, that runs at night at Paradise Pier in Disney California Adventure. It, in and of itself, is worth the price of admission.
All right, let's squeeze in one last call for Gary Chambers here as we talk about Disneyland. Cinda's on KVEC. Hey, Cinda.
Hey, how are you?
We're good, thank you.
So, it's Jim, right?
It's Gary.
Gary, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Gary Chambers, that's it. We are actually, a friend of mine and I are going down south. We're leaving Friday and we're coming back Tuesday. And we're actually staying at a condo in Orange County. And she had asked, well, what about Disneyland or not, or something like that. So it's very last minute. What are your thoughts of it being 4th of July weekend? I know you're going to be there, but if we decide to do it, how should we do it?
You know something? What you need to do is, first of all, arrive early, number one. And when you get into the middle of the day, try not to ride the attractions that have queues. In other words, if you've got Pirates of the Caribbean and there's an hour-long wait for a 8-minute attraction or 12-minute attraction, the benefit to detriment ratio falls too far into the detriment category. There's so much entertainment that you can go to or just enjoy without having to stand on queue. For example, the music in the parks is absolutely extraordinary. Go to Main Street and take in the Dapper Dans, which is the barbershop quartet. They're vastly entertaining. There's a fiddler called Farley the Fiddler that's in Frontierland. They're wonderful. New Orleans Square has the Royal Street Bachelors.
We're out of time. The main thing is get there early.
Get there early.
Cinda, have fun. Thanks for the call. The website is
mouselounge.com, or on iTunes, just go to the iTunes store and search for Mouse Lounge.
Gary Chambers, always good to see you. Final thoughts about Disneyland?
Don't let the crowds dissuade you from going. It's an absolute great time. Even if you had no plan, you can still have a good time. But with a little bit of pre-planning, you can have a great time.
And go through gate number 13.
13.
All right, Gary, we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Dave.
Whoa!